Due to physical abuse he endured from his father. The abuse were severe enough that he was in the care of Children's Aid for 4 months. As Larry entered adolescence, his mother became ill due to postpartum depression, which compounded into alcoholism and further health problems. His father left the family shortly after, and Larry was left to look after his 2 younger siblings and ailing mother. School and sports played a big role in the life. Neil McNeil Secondary School cultivated some sense of normalcy in his life. Although Larry's secondary school years started with him getting in trouble with the law, he was able to graduate and he was even awarded the Michael Owens Humanitarian Award, which was given to the person who demonstrates compassion towards his or her peers. After high school, Larry worked at McDonald's and a few other restaurants. He could not attend post-secondary since he had to help his home financially. Over these years, his mother's situation deteriorated and his responsibilities at home left little room for personal growth. In 2001, Larry also became a father himself to a daughter named Tatiana. Larry tried to remain positive despite the hurdles, but in August 2002, he got into an altercation, which resulted in a young man losing his life. By 2004, Larry was sentenced to life in prison. While in prison, he lost contact with his mother, who became homeless due to her illness and lack of financial resources. Plus, he had a difficult time to maintain a relationship with his daughter from prison. With the future looking grim, Larry decided to start writing letters to his daughter. He needed her to know who he really was. These letters were written and sent to Tatiana on the 27th of every month until his eventual release from prison. After filing for an appeal in 2004, in 2010, Larry won his appeal and was released back in the community. Larry immediately got involved with various nonprofit organizations which cater to youth. He also independently published the book 27 Letters, based on the letters he wrote to his daughter. He is a freelance film photographer who is on the verge of directing his first movie and a documentary. Health is important for Larry. He's also about to launch a vegan meal prep catering service. Larry still resides in Toronto, and he continues to evolve to become the change he envisions for our community. So, it being Black History Month.
Yeah. But I'm just going to say, I don't even think we need to interview you anymore. We know everything.
I had to get the real bio, you know what I'm saying? Because people do need to know who he is, because his story is amazing. So,
Yeah, so you came up with him as someone that you'd like to interview for Black History Month because you felt that it's...
know more about Black history?
No, what's so crazy? I'm gonna go on with you. Basically, I had an interview, right, with an artist I managed, and basically, Larry was actually the man behind the film. But what was crazy about it was that when I met him, his interaction, how he conducted himself, the way he presented himself, and he was just different. Different as in a good different, He had his own individuality. So I'm like, yo, let me ask you a question. Why you call yourself this? Why you fear this? Literally, I picked his brain. And, he was so, intelligent. I'm like, yo, nah, man, this guy has a story. You know what I'm saying? So, with further, insight and look, I realized, yo, this man's a crazy character. So, I had to do it, man. I did it, man. Black history, man.
Thanks for recognizing it.
First of all, I'd like to thank you for coming out.
Thank you.
We really appreciate you coming back today and sitting down with us and chatting with us. And I hope that Face's intro did you justice.
Yes, even though it was a bit long and hopefully...
No, it was great. It was as in-depth as it needed to be.
Perfect.
And now we can pick your brain.
For sure.
On, more in-depth. But, so, you started writing letters to your daughter while you were in prison.
Mm-hmm.
When did you decide to do that? How far into your sentence were you at this point?
I was probably 3 years into my sentence.
When you started writing the letters?
Yeah.
And what motivated you to do that?
I was having a hard time getting a hold of her, maintaining a relationship. I mean, it's hard enough that I was incarcerated, but it's just the family situation, she was young, so I needed assistance to connect with her, and I wasn't getting that assistance, so I was actually talking to a friend of mine, some guy in the grade, he's out now. He suggested that I start writing my daughter, and You know, again, I wasn't getting that support, so I didn't really think much of it, but I said, you know what, let me try it. And then I wrote up the first letter on 2005, December 2005, and she's a quote-unquote New Year's baby. So the first letter I wrote her was basically about the day she was born. And I wrote that letter on the 27th. So after that, you know, the letters became therapeutic over time because it allowed me to kind of, you know, exert some of the energy and just impart some wisdom, because I really didn't know what the future held for me, you know, certain life sentences.
How old was your daughter when you started writing to her?
3 or 4.
And she's how old now?
She's 17.
Wow.
17.
Yeah.
And she still has all the letters and everything?
Yeah. When I was in my 6th or 7th year, I got transferred to another facility called Fembroke. And at Fembroke, they had this cool program called the Children's Reading Program, which allowed individuals who had children to read bedtime stories while they record you. And they'll send you a recording of you reading bedtime stories along with a book to your child.
Mm-hmm.
So little things like that was, you know, pivotal.
Helped you.
Yeah. And like I said, it was all therapeutic for myself too. Just scheming out there.
So, I mean, hopefully it's not a stupid question, because
Nothing stupid question. Go for it.
you know, at the age of, if I'm correct, you were 24 years old, and you got your sentence. At 24, facing a life sentence, what would make you, even though you're a man, you know, and you have responsibility, what would make you focus on your daughter, knowing that you're facing life in prison? Like, some people wouldn't care about their family at that point. Like, what kept you, like, you know something? No, even though I'm doing a life sentence and I'm away from my daughter, I still want to maintain contact.
That's a good question. You know, that it goes back to that program I was in. You think, I mean, for guys, a lot of guys locked up, so in prison, and they all have children. I know this for a fact.
Yeah.
You think that program would be, you have guys knocking down that program to get
Do it.
life.
Yeah.
Nah, it wasn't like that. There was quite a few in it. That was telling to me.
Yeah.
Remember how you said when you met me, I moved different?
Move different, yes.
So when I went to prison, I realized how different I was. Growing up, I always thought everybody thought like me.
Yeah.
When I went to prison, I was like, oh,
No,
it ain't like that. That's when everything started to switch for me. I'm like, shoot, this guy's a jokers out here.
Yeah.
And that's where it all changed for me. Plus, back to the question, family has always been a big thing. Like my siblings, I was always involved with them, you know?
Yes.
I'm like, there's 10-year gap between me and my siblings, so I looked after them, like all that. So early on, looking after my siblings, just only right.
Yes.
When I got, like, family's just big to me. You know, that's the foundation. That's the true government, to tell you the truth.
So, like, with yourself at 24, facing such harsh realities, was your family there for you, in a sense?
Like my siblings
Like
were so young. They were so young when it happened, so they couldn't really, you know, they so only limited what they were able to do. But as far as adults, no, my mom was already ill. My mom actually became homeless when I got incarcerated.
Yeah.
And all kind of drama she went through, and I mean, you know what? Give me a chance to plug my little podcast. Check out 27 Letter Podcast.
Yeah.
There's a little story about just how I got reunited with my mom. That was crazy in itself.
So while you were away, you didn't have any way of contacting your mother?
I had no clue where she was. All I knew was that she was in a shelter. And you know what's crazy about the shelter that she ended up in? There was a shelter when we were younger. There's a club called Spectrum. It's on the Danforth, like Danforth and Dawes.
Okay.
I don't know Spectrum. If you're from back in the days, you know about Spectrum. So years later, they turned that into a shelter. And Spectrum was a spot where I frequented.
All the time.
After I got incarcerated, it turned out that would give me shelter.
Wow.
And when I got, because my mom became homeless, so she was in there.
Yeah.
So I had no, you know, I knew that was the last spot. But after a few years, that was like last known place I knew of her was that place, that shelter there. and that was back in 2004. So till I basically reunited with her, which was in 2011, I believe. Yeah, 2011. I had no clue where she was. So like, I often tell people how if I was incarcerated, I'll be watching the news and you hear a woman's body was found somewhere. Like, those things just crossed, you know, because I had no clue. It's my mother, you know,
Yeah.
so. Like,
You thought the worst basically, because they usually know.
buddy, you know what I mean? I'm coming from the worst, so I know how it goes.
Yeah.
You know?
Limited resources.
Yeah, you know, so that was crazy. I had no clue at all. All I just could do is just hoping, you know, pray that everything's well with her. It was in the long run. She's doing well. She's at home, you know.
Yeah.
Picking with her grandchildren, you know. She's good. She's good. She's
So
blessed.
life's 360.
You already know, you know.
Great, that's what's
Yeah.
up, man. No, that's crazy. So like, going back to your situation, I guess, like you're 24. How do you react to life sentence?
Yeah, I smiled at the judge when he gave me life.
For real?
Yeah, because I knew I wasn't going to do the time, so everything, like even, like, I don't know if you're familiar with the courts, how they read the sentence. So
Yeah.
the foreman who was reading the sentence, I remember, he was crying, and his name was Escobar. I remember the name to this day, and he was crying. I always looked at it as a sign that there was some injustice happening, because I'm like,
Why is
why
he
are you
crying?
crying? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you guys felt like what you guys were doing was just, why are you crying? And it goes back to something I found out about this thing called jury vetting. I don't know if you guys ever heard that, looked that up, jury vetting. That's this game that they play,
Yeah.
pretty much they pick who they want to put in the jury. So it's like, really, truly, it's all a charade, this whole thing. Decisions are made in the back. So, but I knew that in my case that in particular, like, there wasn't unjust things that happened that I got convicted.
Free to speak about your past.
You know what? I wasn't even writing the book. I wasn't even open to that. That wasn't even an idea till a couple of years after it came out. But you would think I had like a smooth transition coming home. Like it was hard to begin with to make the transition, but then even trying to get to be around my daughter, I had some struggles on her mom's side.
Yeah.
So that's what kind of drove me, because I was like, damn man, like. When we go through all this, I'm still having issues seeing my daughter, and just the drama was crazy.
Yeah.
So that just kind of said, you know what, let me put this book out there, because I'm like, this is important, because I know there's other people going through this. And
I read on the website that you went 5 years without being able to see your daughter.
yeah, that's when I was incarcerated. And then even after I came out, it was crazy. My daughter lived like 5 minutes drive, like, from me, you know what I mean? And I went a year without seeing her because of drama, but it's crazy. It was just emotional shit.
And sorry, at that point she was 6 years old when you finally saw her again?
Yeah, seven, 6.
And how was it for her when she saw you? Like, how did she react to seeing you for the first time in 5 years?
I mean, at that point she knew I was incarcerated. So, but just seeing you, I mean, little girl, you know your dad? You know your dad?
Yes.
You grew up with your dad?
Yes.
Imagine not seeing your dad.
Of course, but yeah, of
Like,
course.
it's crazy. So, it was a great moment. I can never forget that. So, good for what it is.
That's beautiful. So I'm just gonna stop for a second, and I'm just gonna get us to play a little bit of music for a little. I don't know if you want to read the picks of the week and play them, or and we can do the picks of the week, or do we want to just do a crate surfing for a little bit?
Yeah, you can pick some.
We can do the picks of the week.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you want to start by reading those off?
Yeah.
Reading off the first
I mean,
one?
if y'all know, picks of the week, each and every week, it's 10 picks chosen by ourselves.
In no particular
No
order,
particular
guys.
order.
We just put them on
We
there.
do what we do, man. You know what I'm saying? This week, first up we have the Migos Stir Fry. Number 2 we have Sono featuring James Scrambles, Win. Number 3 we have the new Thoroughbred featuring Don Q Plaga. Number 4 we have City Fidelity lately. And number 5, we have Gina, Love Me.
Number 6, we have Shaw Hustle, Spend Some. Number 7, Block Boy, JB featuring Drake, Look Alive. Number 8, Enders, Why. Number 9, Tory Lanez, BID. Number 10, Ram Riddle's Worst Love.
So you already know. So Gio's queuing that up. He's going to play the top picks of the week. We'll be right back with Lana Ray, you know what I'm saying? Part 2, we going. You already know. Momentum Radio. So I want to segue a little bit away from the letters, you know what I'm saying, and move towards your community initiatives and your involvement. So, you know, so from being incarcerated to being released, you know, you're involved in the community. I heard about a violence tour you're a part of, anti-violence. Let us know about that.
Yeah, innovative inclusion, quote unquote, Black Youth Action Plan initiative.
Okay.
And it's we're having a four city stop the violence campaign.
Okay.
Starting off in Toronto, home city, on the 25th this Sunday. Matter of fact, if you go on YouTube right now and YouTube Violence 360, there's like 4 or 5 videos on individuals that had to deal with violence in certain capacity, whether they're perpetrators or victims. If you go on YouTube, look for Violence 360. If you could call in, you have a number you could call in. And if you call in right now and give me a name for one of the videos that you see that belongs to one of the people, I'll give you 2 tickets.
Actually, or hit us up on our Instagram.
Yeah. So
Instagram.
what we can do is we can post something on our Instagram page.
Yeah.
And I guess it could be the logo. We'll do that on the next music.
So whoever
stop.
can come out with the
Yeah.
name of one of the people, you get 2.
Yes.
I'll get you 2 tickets to the event on Friday. I mean on Saturday. No, Saturday.
So basically, name
Sunday.
us one of the persons featured in the YouTube special.
Exactly.
And here's
Exactly.
something to ticket to the show.
Violence 360.
So-
YouTube bid. So yeah, so that I'm gonna be a panel on that.
Okay.
Talking, and you know, it's the same thing I'm talking about, touching on, and probably go in depth into, you know, rehabilitation and so on and so forth, and healing.
And you're saying it speaks with, I guess, both sides of the fence. You're saying
Yeah.
people that who are the
Perpetrators or
and
victims.
the victims.
Yeah.
Okay, so I
Even,
guess
even to some, they actually reached out to me initially to get my daughter involved, but she's not ready to be a speaker yet.
Okay.
So I got my son's, one of my homie's son involved,
Okay.
and he's actually one of the videos you're gonna see. So you know,
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So, talking about everything outside of the book, I was doing a little bit of research, and you have something called 1206?
Yeah.
Is it
So
1206?
yeah, 1206 is a film photography thing that I do, and you can look it up. I'm on IG 12 underscore studio. 1206 underscore studio. Yeah, so film photography, anything on the media. I've had that for a couple of years, and you know, it's a way to be creative, and it's something I've always wanted to do. I was into theater growing up, so it only made sense. But like you said, reading, you know, from my bio, that's one of the things I would have gotten into, but I was just restricted as far as those options. But like, when you think about, when I see some of these directors now, I easily, like, if it wasn't for those times, like, that's the most precious thing you could have right now. I remember Fat Joe saying that to Tekashi 6ix9ine on his new show, you know, and he's telling him, you know, you need to watch out, for the feds gonna be on you. You're too wild out here, and you know, your time is